Hi, I'm Rabbi Kupko. Thank you so much for joining me today as we discuss the topic of taking care of plants and flowers on Shabbat and holidays. 3 of the 39 forbidden categories of work on Shabbat and holidays have to do directly with taking care of the land and what grows from it. So in an agricultural system, what you would do with your land is, if you wanted to grow something, is you would sow the land, you would make sure that the ground is prepared to put in the seeds. Then what you would do is you would plant the actual seeds, and when they would be ready, you would harvest. Those are 3 categories of work that are very clear and also apply to us in the 21st century. And so what you're not allowed to do is you're not allowed to do anything that prepares the ground and makes it more ready to grow things in it. And you're also not allowed to do anything that either plants something or that helps the plant grow, which would include watering and even pruning sometimes. And then ultimately, you're also not allowed to disconnect whatever's growing in the land from it, and that is ksira. So you have choresh, which is preparing the land to grow. You have zorea, is another category of work. You're not allowed to enhance or facilitate any growth. And kotzer, you're not allowed to discontinue anything that's growing. So just how does that apply to us? Because most of us don't live on farms. And so how does it apply to us if we have a garden or something like that? So here at home, I have this lovely plant. So what it would mean is that I can't do anything that would prepare the ground for it to grow. So I can't put in it anything that's going to fertilize the ground. I can't do anything to straighten out the dirt. That all is forbidden on Shabbat. That is all in Choresh. Another thing that I can't do is I can't help the plant grow. So I can't water the plant, I can't fertilize it, I can't do anything on Shabbat or Yom Tov that would help the plant grow. And then finally, kotzer. I would not be allowed to do anything that takes the plant out of its source of where it grows. So I'm not allowed to pick anything, not allowed to take off any leaves, and so that is how these melachot apply in modern day halacha. So let's quickly again recap that and say how that applies to our lives. So you're not allowed to water a plant in your house, you're not allowed to pull it out, and you're not allowed to discontinue its growth on Shabbat, which is very important when it comes to eating outdoors. So a lot of times we have a meal outside of our homes if we have a backyard, and so you can't have a meal outside if you are pretty sure that you're going to spill some water on the grass there, because that helps the grass grow. And so if you're doing it, you just have to be really careful and make sure that you're not going to allow anything spill on the ground. It's actually very interesting if you're in a place where, let's say you're in a cabin and the water doesn't go into a sewage system but just goes outside to the grass. So there are many rabbis who say that's permitted if it doesn't go directly. So if you're going to wash your hands and that goes into a piping system that will go outside and you're not doing it in order to help the plants outside grow, many rabbis say that that's permitted on Shabbat. Now, what about flowers that are not in a pot, like this beautiful bouquet of flowers? So what about these? So it's actually very interesting. If the flower has completed its growth, which is pretty much like this, right? You're not looking for it to grow anymore from this point. It's perfect where it's at. And you take it out of the water for a short time, you're allowed to put it back into the water on Shabbat. However, if the roses would have been like a bit more closed and still, developing, then once they've been taken out of the water, then you can't put them back in because that's sort of helping them grow. So then that's if I took these out of the water and then changed the water or whatever it is and put it back in, that would probably be okay if I put it right back in. But if it's something that is still in the process of growing or really needs the water to continue its growth, like hydrangeas or other things, then it would be forbidden. Another major difference between plants that are in a vase that's just water and plants that are like this, it's a dirt plant, is that these are muktzeh on Shabbat. You cannot carry them, you can't move them, because you have the dirt there and you have the plant, and it's considered one of the things that you're not allowed to move on Shabbat. However, the flowers in the vase are permitted to be moved on Shabbat. You can move them around, and as long as there's no dirt there and it's not growing in a flower pot, it's okay, and it is not muktzeh on Shabbat. And you're allowed to even put it in and out of the water, which is what we do on Yom Tov with the lulav. We wrap it in water or a wet towel, so that's fine. The question is, if indeed the flower pot is muktzeh, what do you do if it falls and all the dirt spills out? So if it's in a place where it's considered a disruption to life and it would make things very unpleasant, like if it spills in the living room, then it's okay to move it what's called kila achar yad, like with the back of your leg or with a broom, just to get it out of the way. But otherwise, if the flower pot drops and all the dirt goes away, spills on the floor, then you're not allowed to pick it up. And in fact, putting it back in the pot with putting the plant back can be a melacha deoraita. It can be forbidden work from the Torah, because you're replanting it and putting it in there. So that would be something that you can't do. Now, smelling. You are allowed to smell something that smells good, even if it's connected to the ground. So I have here this. It smells delicious. You can smell it. And that's completely permitted, even if it's connected to the ground. I wouldn't be allowed to pick it up, but if I pass next to something that smells nice, I'm allowed to smell it. However, the rabbis said it's forbidden to smell fruit that are growing on the tree on Shabbat, because you may pick it and eat it. They did not have that concern with regard to flowers. So you're allowed to smell a good flower that's still connected to the ground, but not a fruit. If you like this video, please like it and please subscribe. And if you have any questions, please leave them down here in the comments section. I usually answer fairly fast. And thank you so much for taking this time to listen. There are 2 links down in the comment section, in the video description, with more halachot with regard to plants on Shabbat.